The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters. Right. That's exactly the way that I operate. And there always is going to be emotion in Second Amendment stuff, but as much as we can filter that out and just educate people, I think we'll be better off. So this group, for the listeners, is a Facebook group called Gun Rights, the number 4 Illinois, and you can join it. I'm in it. It's a great group. Part of the conversation is leading me into being active, and there's this current slew of laws. The assault weapons ban, there's a non-militia training ban, non-marketing ban. How has this hurt the firearms industry broadly?
The problem with the new Illinois law, specifically the training ban as well as the marketing to minors ban, the biggest problem with this is how broadly that it is written, and it's unconstitutional in a number of ways. Specifically, Illinois now is empowered to go after dealers and manufacturers and gunsmiths and instructors in other states. The way the law is written, if there's any chance, basically, and of course I'm paraphrasing, but if there's any chance, basically, that let's say you manufacture a firearm and it might end up in some kid's hand. Well, the state, not just the state, but private entities within Illinois are empowered to sue those companies. What it's going to do is it's going to, and this is, put my tinfoil hat on for a second, by design, I believe that it's designed to dissuade manufacturers and gunsmiths and et cetera, from operating. It's going to dissuade dealers from operating. At some point, we see law after law with Illinois gun dealer certification, which is a redundant level of certification on top of the federal licensing for gun dealers that was designed to put gun stores out of business. And this really is very much to the same degree designed to put people out of business just out of frustration. It's not worth it, and they're going to throw their hands up, and it's going to drive the costs up in a number of ways. And I truly believe that is what they're trying to do. The more prohibitive that they can be, like, oh, well, look, we're not banning anything. We're not banning guns. We're not, you can still sell guns. You can still train, but it's going to make things more cost prohibitive. And then when you think about it, the poor and the working class, the people that realistically are going to need the firearm statistically more than, the suburban dude, they're not going to have access to those things, because when it comes down to groceries or taking a training class, what are you going to do? You're going to get the groceries. Also, specifically to children, I believe that the people who promote civilian disarmament they're astute, and they know what they are doing. And this is a siege. They're not trying to win a battle. They're trying to win a long war. They know that if they can prevent children from having exposure to gun safety training and things of that nature, that in the wake of this unprecedented awakening of people who are going out and purchasing firearms for the very first time ever since the pandemic and the riots and everything, they understand that more people are seeing the value. Pew Research just did a study that states the majority of firearms that are purchased for defensive reasons, and people are awakening to that. And the more that they do, the less likely that the powers that be will remain in power, so to speak. And if they can affect the minds of the children, then the next generation will be turned off to firearms, and it'll be easier for them to control.
So I'm going to share with the listeners something that my parents did when I was in 6th grade, and they did this right. I'm a smart kid. I got on the honor roll. My parents got me my first .22. It was a Harrington and Richardson 9-shot revolver, and this is what they did. I never had access to the gun as a kid. We'd go to the range. My father would open a bag. He'd hand me the gun and say, here's, I'm making air quotes, your gun. I would shoot it, and then I'd give it back to him. He'd put it in his bag and secure it. And then when it was time to clean it, again, I was supervised. That's the way to do it, not to just say, oh, hey, in Michigan there's a 15-year-old kid, let's get him a 6 hour 9mm, and then there's a school shooting. So, go ahead.
I want to say this. My parenting style is very much the same as your parents. My son, my daughter both have, again, air quotes, their gun, but they live in my safe. And when we go to the range, this is yours and this is yours, and everyone shoots their own gun. Having said that, I like to always seek other perspectives. And what I learned in doing that is that gun ownership is looked at very differently in urban America versus rural America. Now, even though I keep my guns locked up and everything except my defensive firearm, which I keep readily available in my protection and my immediate care and control, I was talking to a friend in Southern Illinois who has a small farm. He has some chickens and stuff. He's got a job, but they supplement their meat and their poultry and everything, eggs. So cool. He was telling me when our sons were 8 years old, he said, I have an AR-15 by the back door, and my son knows if you see a coyote messing with the chickens, you just grab that rifle and you shoot it. Do not even ask, because that's what you got to do. And it really got me thinking, Marcus, what's the difference between a knife and a firearm? And when it really comes down to it, think about it. You can cause devastating damage with both if you're used in a negligent manner. But the difference between the two, people, one is ranged, one is contact, one is more personal, one is less personal. It's training. It really is training, because when you think about knives, our kids at some point in their life will have unrestricted access. And what it really comes down to is they're watching us cut food, and at some point they want to cut food, and then we're holding their hands helping them cut food. And then at some point they're cutting food while we're supervising and hovering very closely. And I like to joke, now I'm at the point with my kids, 13 and 17, get your own damn knife. I'm not your slave.
That's right.
And so the bottom line, though, is, Marcus, what I'm saying is I'm not telling anyone how to parent. I'm just throwing a different perspective out there. The bottom line is, honestly, we treat one like taboo and blah, 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 but we treat the other one like this is just part of everyday life. And kids aren't generally out there. And I get what you're saying, right? If a kid doesn't have access to a gun, the chances that he can do mass shooting go down. But I always like to say that when there's a will to commit evil and violent acts, there will always be a way to commit evil and violent acts. So banning the how will never ban the why. And if we want to address any of these issues, rampage killings, mass murder, etc., we have to address why these things are happening, not how, because there will always be a how.
I'm going to quote you and say that evil doesn't live in the chamber of a firearm.
Correct, nor does it live on the blade of the knife. Evil lives within the hearts of mankind.
Right, exactly. Kind of funny you brought up knives, because last night I ran an active shooter drill, and everyone's expecting the bad guy to come in with a Nerf gun. And I planted, this was a religious institution, I planted a rubber knife in with one of the purses, and the congregant went on a stabbing spree. And the point was, it's not always a gun. And it kind of accentuates the point about evil. If there's a will, there's a way. We talked high level about how you train people from basically A to Z, from basic to advanced. Can you talk about some of the classes that you offer beyond concealed carry, your advanced shooting techniques, low light, holster draw, those types of things? And then we'll get to the upcoming class that I'd love to discuss shortly.
Sure. Yeah. So let me kind of tell you a little bit about the progression. As soon as we got, 6 months into concealed carry, and the realization for me, the honest truth is it's hard to do a concealed carry class meeting all the state requirements of what they demand of us as instructors in Illinois. It's hard to do a concealed carry class that honestly, in my opinion, truly enables the student to have the proficiency that they truly honestly need. Standing there poking a few holes in paper, anyone can do. I can take anyone who's never shot a gun, and within an hour I can have you pass the Illinois qualification. That's not a difficult thing for a decent instructor to do. But I don't think that prepares someone for what is truly a real life situation where you have to pull that firearm out and you've got a matter of less than 3 seconds to save yourself and put hits on target, maybe a moving target, etc. I like to equate concealed carry or even a basic pistol class to driver's education, where you have the instructor very much hovering and guiding you, but the instructor's not going to be there in that life and death situation. So I like to equate our defensive pistol, which, as I said, about 6 months after we started doing concealed carry, that's like taking your car to a racetrack and really, really learning what you can do and what it can do. Learning to prove your gear. It's not unusual for students in our level 1 defensive pistol to come in with gear that they think will work. They did great research, and then then half hour into class, they might change a holster location or realize that it doesn't work the way they wanted it to work. And that's great because now you know and you can adjust. I like to say that proving your gear is one of the most important things you'll learn in that class. And the offensive pistol program has grown. So we just started, we had a level 1, and now we have 2 classes that are level 2, covering concealment, shooting from the ground, shooting from unorthodox positions, shooting while moving. We have level 3, which is pretty much all one-handed. If you got shot in your right arm and that's your dominant arm, are you out of the fight? And the answer is only if you decide to be. And I'll teach the students how to, draw with their left hand from their right side, how to reload, everything that you need to do, deal with malfunctions, all of these things that, let's be honest, very, very few people train. And the reality is, while it's probably unlikely, it's not a 0% chance. It's a hell of a lot of fun, and it's really good skills that you're going to learn that is in the gravest extreme. You're going to be prepared. I like to say you're probably not going to figure it out in a gunfight. We also do stop and bleed classes, which is the medical training advanced first aid class. I think that's incredibly important for anyone, not just a gun owner, because if you're in a car accident, you might need to know how to apply a tourniquet. And if you A, don't have a tourniquet, and B, you don't know which end goes up, someone you love might die. So very cheap and effective tools that I think everyone should just have a basic understanding on how to work with. We, by popular demand, people have been asking for years, we launched a defensive rifle program, but I waited. I wanted to make sure that we were in a position to offer the quality training that people have come to expect from our handgun programs. I didn't want it to be just a slap together curriculum. I really, really wanted it to be exactly what it should be, not just jazz, fun stuff. Let's run some silly drills. There's of course going to be some of that in any class just to have students entertain, but really wanted to sit down and build a curriculum that was top notch. So we launched that this year. Also, defensive shotgun program as well. We've got that going. We'll be doing the next one in October. At the end of October will be our defensive shotgun class at the Aurora Sportsman Club. So that's a lot of fun because I think that a lot of people look at the shotgun as it's a very simple tool, and obviously, of course, it can be. But when it comes to the amount of misinformation and just unfactual information that gets passed around as if it is factual, it surrounds the shotgun. And so for that reason, the shotgun, honestly, is a thinking person's tool. There's so much that you can do with it when you really understand how to actually run it and switching between ammunition, how to do that fast and safe so you can take long shots and close shots. And people just underrate the tool. But a lot of people use it for home defense, and that's fine. But again, the misconceptions and the misinformation that surrounds that, people really just don't understand. And like I said, a lot of stuff just gets passed around as fact that just truly isn't fact.
I can give the listeners a point or an example of this point. Following the Highland Park July 4th shooting last year, I was talking with a Highland Park resident, and he does not believe in, I'm making air quotes, assault weapons. They're too powerful, they're dangerous, they're deadly. And I said, what did you do during the parade? Oh, I sat on my front porch with my shotgun, which to me was kind of laughable because a shotgun can be a powerful tool, more so than some rifles at certain distances.
Okay, so you've got a .223 round coming at you, which is, of course, not going to be a pleasant experience if it hits you. But if I have a .7, what is a shotgun slug? It's just less than .75. I believe it off the top of my head is .73. So it's almost 3/4 of an inch. It is a hair shy of 3/4 of an inch versus a .223, which is a hair shy of a 1/4 inch. A 1 ounce slug coming at you, that is going to be even less pleasant. And if you've got buckshot, now you're going to get hit with essentially between 7 to 9 9mm rounds in one hit. I mean, it's just misconception. I call people like that butters. I believe in the Second Amendment, but. And if you say but, no, you don't. But again, I can get off on a tangent. I don't understand why you would want to limit yourself on the tools that you can use to defend yourself. I want the most effective tool for the job. And firearms are tools, make no mistake. I like to equate firearms to power tools, for example. That's really what they are. But Could I drive a nail with a screwdriver? And the answer is yes, but it's going to be slow. It's going to be very inefficient. I could do it better with a hammer. And when we look at it like that, firearms being tools, there's the tool for every job. Every job has the right tool. And I don't understand why anyone would want to limit themselves because, again, going back to what I said before, no matter what, there's always going to be a how people can do these sick things. And let's also be 100% honest. Firearms can be easily manufactured in one's garage. There's not a part that I couldn't manufacture given enough time. They are doing this in the jungles of Philippines with scrap metal and hand tools. So you're never going to stop bad people from having these tools. Why would you limit yourself from having equal or greater equipment to be able to defend yourself? It doesn't comprehend, and no one has ever been able to give me a logical argument to that question, because disarming yourself will not disarm the bad people.
To me, it's very interesting. I think the only limitation that someone should have is their own comfort level. Some people are not comfortable with shotguns. Okay, no problem.
Don't buy one. No problem. I agree.
Get something different. No worries if you're not comfortable with it. I'm more comfortable with a rifle than a shotgun. That's my preference. If all I had was a shotgun, the bad guy's still going down. So go ahead.
Everyone's going to have their comfort. I've had a number of students who grew up on shotguns, and the first time they're ever shooting a handgun is when they met me, and they've been shooting shotguns for 10, 15, 20 years sometimes. And I'll say, some of these guys know more about trap shooting and skeet shooting than I do, but I'm not a sports shooter. I'm a defensive shooter. I look at all of my training from the defensive mindset. I learn things from all of my students all the time. Sometimes it's about human nature, and sometimes someone will show me, especially I've picked up stuff in recent months from left-handers who are using a right-hand gun, and they show me a technique that they came up with, and wow, so it's great. I can learn something. Don't limit yourself. It doesn't make any sense. Use what you're comfortable with. And the other thing I also find is people fear what they are not comfortable with. So face your fears, and if you're afraid of something, face it. Get to know it. If it's a firearm, why am I afraid of this firearm? Generally, it's because if I use it wrong, I'm going to hurt myself. I agree. So why not learn how to use it correctly? Going back to the gentleman sitting on his porch with his shotgun, he obviously understands the importance of a firearm for personal protection. But again, I want to just say, why limit yourself? If there is a better tool for that particular job, why wouldn't you want to use it? And if you're not comfortable with it, then do something to at least understand it from a factual basis.
Let's get to some nitty-gritty on the shotgun class. How many
Sure.
rounds are people going to shoot at the class, approximately?
I tell students bring 120 rounds, and we break that down between the bird and the buck and the slug. In an 8-hour day, I know shotguns can beat people up. We do teach them techniques like what's called a push-pull technique, which absolutely minimizes the amount of recoil you're going to feel in your shoulder. But still, shotguns are devastating tools. I like to joke that every time you fire the shotgun, and the actual firearm is trying to break itself and rattle itself to pieces, and it's doing the same thing to you. So unlike for example, our handgun and our rifle classes, they are higher round count, generally 500 rounds. In the defensive shotgun, it's 120. But I also tell students in every class, bring extra ammo, because depending upon the curriculum and the size of the class and how quickly we get through it, if we still got range time in daylight, we're going to burn as much ammo as you want to burn. We'll run different drills. We'll set up different drills that we can run my classes are structured. I have a curriculum. We're going to go down the list, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then as time allows, after we get through all of that, the structured curriculum, then we can do additional things, additional drills. So 120 minimum. Bring more if you got it and if your shoulder can withstand it. I shoot a pump gun, and you know what? I don't see it's not that big of a deal. Back years ago when I didn't know the techniques, it was, but now that I know the techniques, it's not that big a deal.
So is the curriculum an NRA curriculum or something you came up with, or a hybrid?
Yeah, so I am certified by the National Rifle Association. I have multiple disciplines, but specifically to shotgun, I am certified basic as well as law enforcement instructor. It is the NRA basic shotgun is very much like a target, like a trap skeet type of curriculum. So it is definitely not that. And I have taken some of the drills when I got certified as an NRA law enforcement instructor. I have taken some of those drills and incorporated it into my class. So I guess truly you could definitely say it is a hybrid. But at the end of the day, you're receiving an Alpha Concepts certificate and not an NRA one. I like to have my own curriculums for all my classes. The reason being, after 10 years of training and I have a common question over and over and over, if I'm using someone else's curriculum, it's like, hey, why don't we incorporate something to address that, since it's obviously a common question? And when you're teaching off someone else's curriculum, they're like, no, it has to be to the book. And I understand for legal reasons why that is the case. But every 6 months, I go through all of my curriculums. And in fact, the legal portion of our concealed carry, I'm changing frequently, more than 6 months. But as far as all the other curriculum that I have, every 6 months I go through and I look at, and is this still valid? Is that still valid? Is there a better way of teaching? We don't do drills just to do drills. The end result is so that the student learns a skill. So is there a better way for the student to acquire the skill? And so, every 6 months I go through, and sometimes I don't make changes, sometimes I do. But those are all documented, because if I'm ever, as a firearm instructor, we're open to this. If we are ever subpoenaed and called to court to testify because one of those students that we certified, might be in some legal trouble, I need to be able to document what I taught them. And that's why I tell students also, you should document all of your training as well. But when it comes down to it, if my curriculum is ever subpoenaed, I can show the judge and the jury, the prosecutor, this is exactly what we did. Here's the curriculum at this time, dated. He or she took the class in October 2023, and this is the curriculum for defensive shotgun that we were teaching in 2023. So that's the reason why I like to have structured curriculum.
Very good. If someone wanted to enroll in the class, how could they do so?
Yeah, so the best way to get more information about any of the classes that I offer is alphaconcepts.com. And then, again, concepts is spelled with a K. Or they can text or call 847-612-3952. The best way, if they have questions, is to use the contact form to shoot me an email. 100% honest, I receive so many texts that sometimes things get buried. And then as far as phone calls go, they can sometimes be a time suck. Allow me, 24 hours to return your call. Leave a message if you're going to call and I don't answer. People will just not leave a message. If I'm on the other line or I'm doing a interview like this or I'm with a student, I cannot answer the phone. And so if you're going to call, leave a message. But like I said, the best way is alphaconcepts.com, and concepts is spelled with a K. I've got all the class information up there. I have the dates, again, give you a brief overview of the curriculum. It'll have the dates, the times. You can register directly online. It's all, next century. We're not doing stuff by paper and check anymore. So we can do that, but very few people want to drop a check in the mail, seeing as how checks are getting stolen out of the mailbox every day around here.
I'm thinking about something you said earlier, and I wanted to ask you. Since the pandemic, and I'm just using that as a time reference because there was a lot of rioting during the COVID pandemic. Have you seen an increase in your classes of people that were previously anti-gun and have seen and now realize, holy cow, maybe the police aren't going to say?
So let me say, during the pandemic and during the riots, 100%, absolutely, there were people that took the class that were like, let's say, leaned to the anti-gun side of things. What I will say is now, here we are, it's 23. So we've had some time. A lot of those people are glad to say a lot of those people have converted at least somewhat, baby steps in the right direction. What I am seeing now, though, is what I like to call gun curious, where they've always been on the fence and never really leaning one side or the next. And those are, and as you know, I'm teaching multiple classes every month with concealed carry, weekend, weekday. And so I get a nice broad picture of the student base. What I want to tell anyone who's listening, there's absolutely no stereotype for the gun owner. I am the stereotype, right? Middle-aged, bald, fat, white man. But I'm going to tell you, that's not who's coming to my classes. Okay, I've got females. I've got people of many different shades. I've got people of various different religions. It is just a series. It's a slice of the American pie. It's just a little bit of everyone who is now opening up their mind to the benefits of responsible gun ownership.
What final thoughts can you share with our listeners about training? Maybe talk about don't get a $4,000 gun and not have training. Get a $500 gun and $3,500 worth of training. So
I mean, that's a great idea. First, I'm going to say this: if you don't have a firearm yet, you want to take a basic pistol class from someone who will teach you how to choose the right firearm for you, because it's not unusual for people to buy the wrong gun. Once you learn, and it's something we teach, and I know a lot of other instructors do as well, teach them all about the parts and the pieces and the pros and the cons. Do I want a safety? Do I not want a safety? What's the benefit? What's the downfall? Just as an example. So if you don't yet have a firearm, wait until after you take a class, because a good instructor is going to teach you how to pick the right firearm for you. And then just because you own a firearm, I got a basketball and I am not Michael Jordan, okay? And I'm not LeBron James. Whoever you think is the best player out there, that ain't me. I'm pretty good at shooting. Why? Because I spend a lot of time shooting, just like Michael Jordan spends a lot of time on the basketball court. You need to learn how to use these tools. And standing at the range poking holes in paper is fun to some degree, but it also does not mimic real life. So if you are training for defensive purposes, you need to take some kind of advanced training class. And I like to tell students this: dry fire, that means at home, no ammunition, working on your techniques, your trigger press, your holster draw. You don't need ammunition for that. Then go to the range once a month to live fire. A lot of people don't go once a month, and I'm going to tell you, if I don't go to the range once a month, I see in my targets, I see the results in my targets. I have to take an hour a month for myself to just keep my skills proficient, and then take one advanced training class a year. If you do that, you're going to be better. Honestly, you're going to be better than 90% of gun owners out there who, just to be truthful, and I'm not trying to hurt anyone's feelings, if this is you, maybe just go take some more training classes. But most gun owners don't really train properly, don't really train at all. I observe people who are not my students on the range, and a lot of people out there just need to get a little bit more training with these tools, because if you use them wrong, you're going to hurt yourself or someone else. So please at least get at that baseline level of safety training, so that you are an asset to yourself and your family and not a liability.
Thomas, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to our listeners today about your upcoming classes, your perspectives, which are pretty similar to mine. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, Marcus.
We have monthly concealed carry license, CCL classes in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. Dates can be seen at firearmmentor.com/classes. If you have a question, we can be reached at www.firearmmentorcard.com. That is our electronic business card, has all of our contact information and links in it. It's the easiest way to get a hold of us. Until next time, stay safe out there, and I'll see you at the shooting range. This is Marcus Melnick from Firearm Mentor signing off. The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters.